was a day that you'll never forget, but it's also a day that, you really don't want to remember.
Nothing compared to 9/11, nothing compared.
The sound and what I felt, it will never escape me.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
You look up and you see One World Trade Center with your eyes, but you don't see One World Trade Center in your mind. You see two buildings on fire.
Terror and fear and running on the street again. People were scattering for cover.
Get out, get out, get out, get out.
This is just so much bigger than we thought. We had no idea.
Nobody's safe. We're not safe. Even all these little buildings, we're not safe.
I could see the tail of a jetliner dip, dip, turn. That fast.
And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding.
I remember just saying, Nina, we've got to get down. We've got to get down.
What's happening?
As far as all my colleagues, I thought everybody was gone.
The building collapsed.
Not there anymore.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
But that cloud of smoke just was a whole new approach to things.
Glenn, let's go, let's go.
Egging me on, it says, come on, come on.
Watch out, there it is, there it is, there it is.
The way, like a movie scene, it just sort of came up the street behind us.
I don't think you could be that close to 3,000 people dying and emotionally, spiritually not just feel that way on you.
Well, I can see people hurt, children without mothers and fathers tonight.
And that's for us. We were covering it. These families that never were the same again have much, much bigger burden than we do.
You rolling? Okay.
Okay, so are you rolling? Yes. All right, let's go right to it. It was like a day I can't forget.
It was a beautiful Tuesday with fluffy white clouds in the sky.
It was just gorgeous.
This is one of those great spectacular days that you didn't ever think, anything, but it's great to be in this city.
And it turned out to be, the backdrop for one of the worst days.
It was election day. It was primary election day here in New York City.
Ready for a interesting primary. Trying to pick the next mayor of New York.
It was supposed to be a simple Tuesday.
And I think I'm going to have an easy day, right? You come in at 7, you go home at 3. Hopefully you have no 5 o'clock live shot.
When people say this came out of the clear blue sky, it really did.
I was in the RF room, which stands for radio frequency, waiting for the chopper to fire up a signal. The chopper pilot said to me that he sees smoke coming from the towers, one of the towers. I made sure there was a tape rolling. I ran upstairs to the newsroom. I told everybody to look at the Alpine receiver to make sure that they could see what was going on.
My first thought was, a Piper Cub or, a small plane or something must have hit it. And as I walked into the room, I saw smoke billowing off of one of the cameras that we had.
And all of a sudden, a plane just came into the World Trade Center. And I was like, what?
Breaking news, get in control room. I said, you're kidding. He says, no plane hit the building.
The desk started getting some phone calls that it might have been a small plane that had crashed. No one thought at all that we were under attack.
At that point, we didn't know the size of the plane. We didn't know anything about the plane. We just knew that a plane had gone into one of the towers. And I looked at that and said, uh-oh, I gotta get to work.
And I jumped out of bed. I don't even know if I brushed my teeth. I threw on whatever was there, literally ran to the station.
We assigned producers to the control rooms.
And he said, we need to get this on the air.
This is the news leader, WABC-TV Eyewitness News.
Again, what we know, in case you're just joining us, a small plane ran into the north side of the World Trade Center.
Get to the control room. On the way, call Bill Ritter. So I call Bill.
We don't know what really happened, but might be a small plane. We just don't know. Let's get in here right away.
And I wanted all our evening anchors in here to lead our coverage.
We got a phone call, and it was one of the assignment editors on the desk. A plane hit the World Trade Center. And we started walking out to the aircraft, and you get out on the ramp here, and you could see the city, and I could see the smoke coming off the Twin Towers, and we knew at that point that this was real. This was something big.
I was right in this area, and the news assignment desk is right there. You can always hear what they're saying, especially when they're screaming. And the news was, we got a plane down. Seems like it's a small plane. It hit one of the buildings.
Right into the World Trade Center.
Chaos. And Eyewitness News is usually a well-oiled machine. And I walked in, and seasoned veterans on the assignment desk were running around, phones were ringing.
I get this crazy call from the desk. Somebody's hit the World Trade Center. A plane ran into the World Trade Center. And the initial thought was, what, some small plane pilot couldn't get his bearings straight on this absolutely spectacular day? What is this? This is ridiculous.
And that very moment is when everything changed and everybody went into full defensive mode, news gathering, and it was just a sight to be seen.
We were basically sending everybody down to the World Trade Center. We didn't know what we were dealing with.
Calling every car, just the mobiles. Mobile 15, are you in? Mobile 10, are you in? Are you in? Go downtown, go downtown.
Find a crew, get down there, let us know when you're there.
Take Joe Torres with you and get down there.
I just ran out the door. I said, okay, I'll jump in whatever truck.
Just as I got to the corner of 67th and Columbus, she was standing there. She put her hand up. She jumped in the truck, and we zoomed downtown.
First responders needed to get their doctors. We weren't, as a journalist, you're not at that level, but you knew that there was a job to do, that we had to be on the air, that we had to be there.
Marty was coming out of the garage, knocked on the window, jumped in the Ford Explorer. I said, it's you and me, let's go.
Jumped in the helicopter and started up and started flying towards the city. And the first thing we noticed was that Newark Airport, which is a couple miles from here, cleared us in a straight line to the World Trade Center, which is very unusual because of the approach path coming in. You're right in the line of all the approaches going into Newark. They cleared us straight, which meant there was nothing coming into Newark, and we didn't really think about it. We just knew it was unusual, but it was better for us because it was a straight line.
I remember coming into the room, and John was already flying. He was already talking to me about what was, what he saw. He saw building smoke coming from, from the World Trade Center.
We were over Bayonne, and I went to talk to my pilot, and behind him, out the window, I could see another airplane down by the Verrazano Bridge. And it was a passenger airplane. The initial instinct, as we're always flying and you're sharing the skies, I asked Paul, do you have this guy? Meaning, do you have visual contact? Do you know he's there? And he said, yeah, I got him. And Newark's not even pointing him out to me.
On the radio, I heard John scream. He goes, oh my God, a plane just flew underneath me. He goes, and it's like right on the deck. He said it's going right over the bay, going right towards World Trade Center.
I saw the United Airlines on the side of the airplane, and it had no business being at that altitude. It was low as we were, and it was fast, and it was right mid-span over the Verrazano, a few miles away from us. And it shouldn't have been there. And as you look back on it now, you say, that was totally out of place. But we had him in sight from a safety standpoint. We were satisfied with that. I went back to doing something and looked back out the window, and it was us and the statue and the World Trade Center. And I could see the tail of a jetliner dip, dip, turn. That fast, very abrupt, not something you would normally see. And it was just instinct. I turned the camera, pointed it that direction, reached down to press play and record on the old deck, and looked at my monitor, and the fireball was there.
And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding.
And it started to process immediately. And I asked Paul, I said, where is that airplane, meaning the one that we had seen? And he was already saying, that was him. That was him. Oh my God, that was him.
The people here everybody's panicking.
I was in shock for a second, and I got out one call to the assignment desk immediately. I said, Chop 7 news desk, another airplane hit the building. And the desk came back to me and said, what did you say? And I lost my radios. All of our repeaters were on top of the building, and whatever power was left in that run was enough to get another plane hit the building. What did you say? And I had nothing. I lost my air signal. I lost communications with the station. So at that point, it's Paul and I out there all by ourselves.
After we realized that the second plane hit the second tower, I ran upstairs at that point and I told everybody, hey, a second plane just crashed into the second tower.
I remember Beluski saying, we just got video of a second plane hitting the tower. We're in live coverage in like a couple seconds
Another
before plane
copy.
had
There's
hit.
the second plane, another passenger plane hitting the World Trade Center.
And then I remember going to Del Giorno.
Have you on the line, John? What can you tell us? John, are you with us?
We also lost IFB for John to hear off air, and eventually, I figured out that if I took the microphone and I put it up to one of the TVs, one of the off-air programs, he could hear the radio.
I hear, hey, John, can you hear me?
John, are you with us?
See, he doesn't realize we're cueing him.
Just north of Midtown Manhattan, we're over the west side of Manhattan here at 79th Street, looking south towards the World Trade Center. Just an absolutely staggering sight as both towers of the World Trade Center are currently billowing in smoke.
And he describes how the plane actually slams into the building and is completely inside the building.
We were on our way to the scene and we witnessed a second airplane.
He said the type of plane.
From what I believe in my experience to be a Boeing 737.
And from his angle, you can actually see the plane wedged into the second tower. And you can see both towers burning. I think everybody pretty much knew this was no accident.
Now it's clear. You have one, you have two, you know what's happening, and you're already thinking, is there another one coming? And I'm in an aircraft, and if it's behind me, I'm not going to see it. All these things are racing through your mind that quickly. But if I'm going to be out here in this, I might as well do the job.
We are flying downtown, getting close to the World Trade Center. You see people streaming uptown. Just people are flowing uptown like I've never seen before. People are crying, people are hysterical.
As we came over the Henry Hudson Bridge, and the bridge was being shut down as we approached it. I think they let us through because we were a news vehicle. They shut the road down behind us.
I remember having this conversation with Marty along the way where I said, we should really try to get into the tower so we can document the firefighters and their heroism and their dedication and how they were going to be getting people out of the building and saving people. I said, we need to go show that. He's like, that's great, let's do it.
We went down the West Side Highway. We pulled over and what we knew was go live as fast as possible.
The city shut down the southbound lanes of the West Side Highway so that emergency crews only, fire trucks, NYPD trucks could get down here.
That was the first crew that started bringing us from the ground shots.
We get down to the scene and there's a jet engine laying on the corner.
Just blocks away, a plane engine sits on the sidewalk, burned.
I'm looking up, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The gash in the building.
And I saw all of that thick black smoke billowing out of the first tower that was hit. And my first thought was, well, that's not a small plane, that's way too much smoke.
We didn't believe it until we saw it, because when we were going down 9th Avenue, we really couldn't see it. And then we cut over to Washington Street, and that's when you could start seeing the World Trade Center and the inside of it actually red hot inside there.
I was getting phone calls from network. What do you see? What do you see? What is that? And I said, sir, I'm no expert on holes in buildings made by planes. That is a huge hole.
I told Michelle, we're not going any further when we got to Canal Street. Michelle said, why? I said, because we're here to document the story, not to be the story. If that thing falls down, we're gonna get crushed, we're gonna die.
We went on the set, really not knowing a whole lot. You knew something was bad, you just weren't getting the pieces of what it was yet.
The story was evolving so quickly to keep updating. And we actually had a lot of people calling in.
And all of a sudden it smashed right dead into the center of the World Trade Center.
People describe what happened.
Like a drunk driver. It just kept on going and realized what was going on and tried to turn to the left.
One of the most memorable ones is somebody that was on 60-some floor calling in saying, I'm here.
I am here and I'm stuck right now.
Not sure whether I'm above or below where the plane hit.
Are you above, Jim, or below?
I have no idea. I have no idea where the plane hit.
Right now, everything's under control.
I want to tell anybody that has a family member that may be in the building that the situation is under control for the moment.
And he, of course, ended up dying when the buildings collapsed.
A continuous breaking news story like that doesn't really have an end is that especially the first couple hours, the flood of information that came, how do you separate X happens and is it tied to Y? And if it's not, then what's it tied to? Is it just coincidence or circumstances?
This is not an accident. This is terror. And we knew it. We didn't have confirmation on it, but your heart knew it. And it was scary. It was very, very scary to think that we were being attacked.
By that time, Jim Dolan came in, and he came on the set.
It was 8:48 this morning when the world changed forever.
For a number of reasons, they had me go to the anchor desk that day. In part because I had a background in covering terrorism. I was interested in it. I knew who Zawahiri was. I knew who bin Laden was. I knew a little bit about Al-Qaeda. Multiple attacks fit into the Al-Qaeda plan. All of this fit into what Al-Qaeda had already been doing around the world. Terrorism was something that happened elsewhere.
It wasn't that much longer after that President Bush from Florida goes before cameras and says,
"Terrorism against our nation will not stand."
It was the first time we were experiencing an attack on America this big and people trying to process that.
They're using planes as missiles to try and bring down those two buildings. I remember we got down fairly close to the towers, and it was just a chaotic scene. I remember seeing lots of debris, metal, paper raining down from the towers, smoke billowing out.
Our job as reporters is to get as close as possible to see what's going on. So we were just, getting down there as quickly as possible without knowing what we were walking into.
And I remember thinking, I can't get down there fast enough. And I saw a delivery man, and I said, I need your bike. I'm a newscaster, I need your bike, I've got to get down there. I remember just pedaling and pedaling.
When we got probably a block or two away, a police officer started going, "Go back," screaming, "Go back, go back." Gotta move back. And that's when I saw Lauren Glassberg.
It was chaos. I mean, people were screaming and looking up, and I just sort of wandered around trying to figure out what exactly was going on. And I remember standing on a street corner and saw Nina Pineda, who is one of my best friends.
We saw each other, we saw the police officer was screaming, "Get down, get back."
If a first responder is telling me, get down, there's going to be an explosion, then I better probably listen.
As the guy's screaming, he's like, "Take cover." So Lauren and I crouch behind a car.
What's happening? I remember just saying, "Nina, we've got to get down, we've got to get down."
I remember being afraid. For her, for me. She was my best friend.
Kind of holding on to each other. I'm sure she said, "Glassy, we're gonna be all right." That's totally Nina.
And then we realized, okay, we have a second here maybe to get further away. Let's get back up and keep going. I don't think you could be that close to 3,000 people dying and emotionally, spiritually not just feel that weigh on you. I mean, it took us a long time to function as humans. And that's for us. We were covering it. These families that never were the same again have much, much bigger burden than we do.
I hadn't seen Marty in probably 10 years. To see him, it brought me back to that day. But it also reminded me of this bond that we have because of what we went through together.
So we came in here and then we parked right there.
We got to within 1 block of the World Trade Center. Got out of the truck, grabbed the gear. I mean, you can see in the video, we get to the towers, you can see that I look up and you can see the expression on my face. I mean, I'm just horrified. I'm in awe, I'm horrified. You couldn't imagine this. You look up and you see One World Trade Center with your eyes. but you don't see One World Trade Center in your mind. You see two buildings on fire.
And as we came through here, I think that's when I understood what was happening. That's when I started to see the debris. That's when I started to understand what was happening.
It's all, still very vivid to me 20 years later. 20 years later, I can hear the sounds. I almost feel like I can smell that smell of that day, the smoke, things burning. You don't forget that, ever.
And the firemen were all gathered in this area in here.
Exactly where we were. Right there.
Yeah, so this is it.
It is. I can hear it. I can still hear it. But we were standing right there, and that's where we shot the two stand-ups.
When you get that close to a story, you assume that you're not going to be able to stay there for too long.
All right, take one and two.
So I said to Marty, I said, well, look, while we're here, why don't I shoot something on camera? He's like, great idea, let's do that. So, take one.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the two towers. Debris continues to fall and to rain on the people below.
I do take one and I don't like it.
Another one? Take two.
I said, okay, take two.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
There's this roar that you never forget.
It was you, the firefighters who were here, and I remember tilting up, and it wasn't until I opened up my left eye is when my world changed. Because my brain became one solid sphere of survival. But I knew I was going to perish. I knew it. And that is what has hurt me through the years, is I saw my own death. I saw the end.
So while Marty's still shooting, I turn around and there's a door to an office building. If that door was locked, if there was no door, if I had to run for half a block, I wouldn't be here. Marty wouldn't be here. That video would be the last that you ever saw of me. So I go through the door, and I've learned to see that door as providential. I've learned to view that door as the door to the rest of my life.
And I guess the big picture for me is I wonder why.
You wonder why we made it? Why we're here 20 years later?
I
don't wonder.
Don't wonder. No, I know.
Don't wonder. Just put one foot in front of the other, keep moving. That's what I do. I need to find some kind of good to come out of 9/11. And that's the only way I feel like I can process it. And if 9/11 has made me a more sensitive person, if 9/11 has made me a better journalist, then that's something good that came out of something that's horrible. And that's all I can do. Otherwise, it eats you from the inside out. Otherwise, it becomes corrosive. I needed to find a way to process it myself. Yeah. But I ran from 9/11 and I need to find a way to process it better. I hope at some point I can. But my way of coping with all of this has been to put one foot in front of the other. And not just on 9/11, but every day that came after that for 20 years.
I never say, do you remember? I never ask that.
Correct.
But when I do see you, I remember.
Yes. It's not that we don't want to talk about it, it's we are not the story. And it makes us uncomfortable even talking about that because many other people were seriously affected in ways much more grave than the way we were.
The time seemed to stand still.
Keep going, let's go!
There was so much chaos going on. When we were on Vesey next to 7 World Trade, we saw the plane parts, like Boeing area. And then I was shooting.
Embedded in the street.
Right, and I was shooting straight up, and that's when I said, Joe, let's just get people.
Well, I just was in the lobby trying to get a cup of coffee, heard the bang, and now I'm just going around the corner to see if my friends are all right. I can't talk.
I remember a firefighter up on the plaza, and he's yelling at us, get out of the way, you're gonna get hit by debris. And that's when I said, well, maybe we should go to the South Tower. And we're about halfway there, and a DCPI police woman notices Joe.
And we bump into Teresa, a friendly face from the New York Police Department who serves as a liaison between the media and the police. She's with DCPI. And we see each other, we hug and embrace, and she offers to bring us to
West Street,
a news conference.
So we turn around, and we were about the same spot where we started, and then it was like an earthquake.
Underground, underground, underground!
And then all of a sudden, everybody starts running.
Let's go, underground!
The thought was that something underneath, that the street's just going to explode.
Right.
And we're running up Church Street. Teresa is digging her nails into my arm as we're running.
I remember her screaming
because
when it was shaking.
we were fearing for our lives at that point.
Come on, Joe! What is going on? Teresa, come on, come on! Teresa!
A big white cloud coming, and all of a sudden the FBI had an FBI thing on. He goes, don't breathe it, it's poison. And I'm rolling still, and Joe's
Let's go, let's go!
egging me on, says, come on, come on.
Watch out, there it is, there it is, there it is!
And I knew I was gonna outrun it, so I just held my breath, and it just whooshed over me, and I realized I'm not dead. Let's just keep running.
Yeah, because we were getting closer to
Yeah.
get people coming out.
Yep.
And we got a few, but that cloud of smoke it was a whole new approach to things. The way, like a movie scene, it just sort of came up the street behind us.
I started shooting people coming out of the cloud and things covered with it. We see this gentleman, he identified himself as the engineer at the Port Authority.
And you work in number 1 World Trade?
Yes, I do.
And what floor were you?
72nd floor.
And he's covered with this white dust. And he starts saying, well, they're really strong buildings.
They're very strong buildings, as you remember from the blast the last time. So.
And all of a sudden, in the background, I see people start looking up. And so I pan up, and there goes the North Tower.
You're looking at it saying, I can't, there's got to be 2 towers there. I can't believe it. And there's not. And you literally could not believe your eyes, what you were witnessing, but it was real. Oof.
I just look back and it's like, thank goodness you knew that DCPI police.
Oh, wow.
Because that, for me, that is the turning point.
It almost seems like divine intervention at that point.
At that point.
That steps in and says, you may not know this, but I'm with you right now. And the end result will be that at the end of the day, you'll be alive. That was almost a living example of somebody stepping in saying,
no, you're going this way.
You're going this way. And ultimately, thank goodness, we went that way.
I have my physical tape here from 9/11. This is what I shot. This is 20 minutes long. Thank God it lasted to 22 minutes. So I ended up right below Tower 1. My first shots, if you watch the tape, I'm on a tripod. I have my camera on the tripod, and I'm shooting up. So I had an understanding of, at the time, that I was documenting history. While I was shooting, I saw things that it's your worst nightmare. You never want to see a body hitting the ground because it's nightmarish. I couldn't imagine how hellish, how horrific it was inside. And I never shot somebody falling from the building because you could tell
what they were wearing. That would have been somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's husband, somebody's uncle, so I never did it. I never, ever shot somebody falling to the ground and making contact. What I tried to do, and on my tape you can see a firefighter's reaction to it. And he's a fireman. You know, maybe has seen, but their reaction was just, you have to see it to fully understand how horrific it is. As amazed as I am, as horrified as I am, just keep shooting. On my tape you can see an eyewitness.
Like a 737, like a jet plane.
And he mentioned, you know, it was, you know, an American Airlines, a silver aircraft. And I'm looking at him in amazement, like, what? He's like, yeah, two of them. And I still don't believe the words out of his mouth. And then the tower comes down. And the sound and what I felt, it will never escape me. The last scene of my tape, one of them, is a mother who has her child. Remember, I had a 7-month-old at the time. Had her child on a baby Bjorn right in front. She was in complete distress. The mother couldn't breathe. I think she was hyperventilating. I put my camera down. This is the one time I put my camera down. I tried to talk to her to calm her down. Because I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have your child and have all of this calamity around. It was one of those things where I'm glad I was a human being before I was a cameraman. So looking back 20 years later, I don't know where she is. I don't know. The child must be 20 years old in a couple of months, but I'm glad I did that. You know, I'm glad that's one of the things. I stopped being a journalist and I was a father.
Sometimes when you do a job like this, you do think about the fact that something bad could happen. But that was a day where really something really bad happened. As soon as we got onto the streets of Manhattan, there were nothing but fire engines going down like 2nd Avenue heading to Lower Manhattan. So we just tailed onto one of those folks going down and just followed them as far down as we could go. And myself and my cameraman at the time, we got out the truck and started walking toward the World Trade Center. We're going up against waves and waves of people going in the opposite direction. And here we are going in that direction toward the World Trade Center because people were leaving that area in droves. Just like the first World Trade Center bombing, the people came out, they were wet. And that's how I knew who was in the building. That's what I remembered from the first time, because the sprinkler system goes off in the building when something like that happens.
Significantly more than the last one, but it only lasted 10 seconds.
You were actually here during the World Trade Center bombing?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
In comparison, you're saying was?
This seems a good deal worse.
We were just, out there, and then I walked into a deli. And when I walked into the deli, I just said, hey, do you happen to have a restroom? And the guy said, sure, it's right over there. And as soon as he said those words, I felt the earth rumble. I mean, it just shook. And my initial reaction was that maybe they blew up the trains, because it just felt like an earthquake. And we ran outside, and then we saw this incredibly tall, stories tall cloud of debris rushing in our direction. And we were like shocked and stunned. It was like, here it comes. So we jumped into the deli, and as soon as we jumped into the deli, turned around and looked back, it looked like the angel of death had passed by. The deli window went from being bright, sunlight filled to absolute darkness. And it was like you really realized that you were inside of something terrible. People were putting their hands up on the glass. And you could see this hands prints coming across the glass as they reached and kind of crawled their fingers along the glass to find the door handle, to pull it open. And as they were pulling it open, like I said, that dust was pushing in to the store, but eventually you started to see these gray figures completely, top to bottom. Like I said, you couldn't tell what they had on. You couldn't tell if they were black or white. You couldn't tell anything. They were just completely gray.
Tell me. The whole building. I'm looking for the staging area. I work for the Red Cross.
Right.
Yeah, the whole business went down.
It took maybe 7 to 10 minutes for the dust to kind of finally settle. There was a lot of things. People were looking for places to hide in the deli because nobody just had a sense of what was going to happen. We finally went back out. There was still dust particles in the air.
It looks like a nuclear winter out here.
But the cloud had started to lift and it was more gray than just complete darkness. We started to see stuff on the ground that I still can remember. There were hats, shoes, all kinds of things. And the soot on the ground was several inches thick. And it was just like incredible. And then people were walking out of the dust, coming toward us with tears running down their faces, but they're still encrusted in that gray soot. You just knew that it was the worst that you ever wanted to imagine.
The unthinkable happened today. The World Trade Center, both towers, gone.
You don't want to get people overexcited, but especially in 2001, we were the main source of immediate information. It wasn't like now. You just pick up the phone and it's there. We were pretty much it.
It is a scene out of Dante's Hell, horrific. Billowing dust and smoke as the tower just kind of pancaked, slowly just crumbled, and you heard this sort of roar, but muffled. That's how I remember it, sort of being muffled. And I remember as we were running away, I yelled at John, "You rolling?" Okay. And I do remember looking at my watch and saying, "No World Trade Tower is standing. Time, 10:30, Lower Manhattan." It was sort of a way for me to keep from losing control and for me to sort of seek refuge at that second, at that time of that catastrophe, in my work so that I could do it without falling apart.
People are running, it's chaos, we're all covered in dust. And I look off to the side and I say, is that Mayor Giuliani? And I say, let's go. And I just do what comes to mind, but just stick a microphone in his face and start asking questions.
Can you tell us basically what happened? 2 airplanes?
Come with us. Come with us. We did on that day what we always do when there's a big story. We sent everybody at it.
Jim Hoffer.
Joe Torre.
Stacey Sager. Nina Pineda.
Jeff Ross.
Lauren Glassberg, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
They were so close. I mean, that was our job. We had to get to the scene.
The second and last tower of the World Trade Tower has just collapsed.
But as we tried to reach our reporters to get status reports and to move them around, we lost total communication.
Can you hear us now, Michelle?
Michelle? And then when the buildings came down,
We better get out of the way! Keep going, let's go!
knowing that I had sent these reporters to that location and we couldn't reach anybody, my first thought was, oh my God, I just sent all these people to their deaths.
Family members were calling to see how the husbands, wives were doing. And if you didn't see them on TV, you didn't know if they were alive or dead.
And you don't know where they are. I remember Joe's wife, Fran, was asking, where is he? Because we hadn't heard from Joe. Nina, Lauren, Anthony Johnson, NJ, Glenn Mayrose, Angelo Martin. They were all down there. These are reporters, photographers. So we knew that they had to be among those people that were running. And you're just praying that they got out of the way.
Oh my God, there it goes!
Where are they? How did Marty and NJ get out? What happened? Are they dead? I couldn't imagine escaping it because it was a 100-story plus building coming down, all the debris that's associated with that, and them escaping that. I immediately thought thousands of people on the ground are dead. I don't know where my colleagues are, but I really did think they were all dead.
When my mom called me and told me to get down there, she didn't hear from me again. She saw that first building go down, and my whole family thought I was dead.
Damn it, I can't get through. No, they can't be busy. Hi, this is Joe Torres. Put me on a phoner now. All right.
Joe Torres, who's on the phone with us. Joe?
I'm on a payphone at the corner of Barkley and, bear with me, I can't see too much, West Broadway. I can't begin to tell you the difficulty, the painfulness it is to watch this.
Joe Torres is on the air, and he's close to the buildings. Nothing's fallen yet. And he's talking. And he goes, hey, I see a police officer. I'm gonna go talk to him. I'll come back, or I'll get back in touch with you guys. So we go to the next, and the next. And at some point, his wife gets through to the control room. And I pick up, Kat, it's Fran. Have you heard from Joe? I haven't heard from him.
That's mine. Watch it coming out of the fog. Roll out of the fog, Glenn.
I think I said, like, he's okay. I know he's okay. I remember saying all that and not knowing if it was true.
We worried about Joe. His family worried about Joe. And I remember our managers had to talk to Joe's wife and said, we haven't heard from him. And we're going to keep you posted.
So my wife, being the wife of a news reporter, knows that if they've gone to him live once, they're going to go back to him live. Right. And now that hasn't happened, why not?
My photographer, Glenn Mayrose, and I are safe. We're okay back at St. Vincent's.
The video was seen all over the world, and it was also seen in Pittsburgh, where I'm from.
What's happening?
So they had to get on the air and say, if Nina's family's watching, that she's alive.
They were pretty panicked as to our whereabouts. And I can imagine that would have been really tough for them to not know where we are. But the information started to trickle, literally a trickle, back to us that Joe's okay, Glenn's okay, Marty's okay, NJ's okay. And that was a relief.
For us, we were able to tell all but one family that they were okay.
I knew Don since high school. I brought his resume over. Don was the engineer in charge of the transmitter at the top of World Trade Center.
Don was up on that tower. We had just put in a new receiver, and he called and said, I think we have a problem, really calmly. He was such a hard worker, so smart.
And he was our guy up there by the tower, and he was doing his job.
I remember hearing the engineers talk about our engineer being on the top floor and that we had to get him out of there, but that he wouldn't go. They were trying to get him to leave, and he was so dedicated that he wouldn't go.
He was a great employee. He was at work before he was supposed to be. He was there before 9 o'clock.
When the second tower came down, everybody knew what had happened.
That just added to the incredible pain and agony that we all felt. You know, one of 3,000, people whose lives were taken, and it really brought it close to home. It really, really did.
He was one of the smartest people I ever met. He was a good friend of mine.
Tonight, their destruction represents the depths of evil.
It was go, cover, represent. You're clear, it's not about buildings, it's about people. It's about souls, it's about people suffering and literally dying as you're speaking.
We're all New Yorkers, and we're all Americans, and watching this happen is unbelievable. We've lost our skyline, and as a country, I think it's fair to say we've lost our innocence.
You're just not ready for that. And as much as you say to yourself, okay, I've got to get a grip here, if you will. I've got a job to do, and it's a very difficult job at this point.
I had never seen anything like that before. I'd been in the news business for a while. Then I had been in the business for about 20 years, and I have to say that day really rattled my cage. It was something I had never seen before.
It looked apocalyptic. They were covered in ashes.
white and gray, marching up the West Side Highway, desperate to get home. They couldn't take the train, they couldn't take a bus, there was no way. So ferry service started running. All the ferries started coming and bringing people to New Jersey.
Whether it takes 4, 6, 10 hours to get home tonight, no one here was really complaining or counting the hours. They were instead counting their blessings.
And they lined up, just wanting to get home.
Just thankful to be alive. That's all I can say. I just want to get home to my family.
There had been the hope that perhaps boats carrying either people who might have been seriously injured or critically injured, needed some type of help, were then ferried across to New Jersey for some hospitalization. 10 hours after the initial impact, we were all still hoping that maybe there are people to be saved. But we waited and we waited and we waited as darkness fell, and we never saw a boat.
My assignment for the next several days was triage, was people who were getting out. There were doctors on standby, there were volunteers on standby, there were hospitals waiting, and we went to all of them. But the people were never brought in.
You always hold out hope. Just a short while ago, we saw a tractor trailer. We understand the first of the bodies being taken to the morgue here at Bellevue. Bellevue is right next to the medical examiner's office. And so I remember reporting they were bringing trucks up to the morgue, even that first day. Refrigerated trucks were parked outside the morgue. And you knew that this was going to be mass casualty.
I was at St. Vincent's for days. All right, we are live in front of St. Vincent's Hospital. And the story didn't change. People just weren't coming to the hospital because they didn't survive. They are waiting, anxious to treat patients who are brought in. I talked to one doctor, he said the adrenaline is flowing, but there's a sense of helplessness. They just want to be able to help as many people as possible. They're hoping that more are brought in alive.
It was dramatic. It was very crystal clear at that point, the magnitude of loss.
As night falls, we are seeing more and more equipment coming onto the scene. The plan now is to work through the night and pour as much light onto that scene as possible.
I remember them bringing in huge trucks to start actually trying to remove some of the debris. As the night fell, the plume and the smoke and the cloud, it continued. It was just as fresh at night as it was when it happened during the day.
You could smell the acrid scent of that smoke, and it's the scent you'll never forget.
I've never smelled anything like it. I haven't since, and I hope I never do.
You cannot describe what we later started calling the pile. I mean, you can't describe the dystopian carnage that was in Lower Manhattan. It was a hellscape you cannot imagine, and it went on forever. You couldn't see the end of it. It was horrifying. It was horrifying to see what people had done to other people.
Who would have ever thought that you would look down 6th Avenue and those towers would not be standing there? You know. You know, it's 20 years, and I start talking about that day and it comes back.
At a time where people weren't as connected as they are now on social media, the news really provided not just information, but perhaps a sense of all of us being in this together as one nation, one city.
It was the commitment to getting the story and telling it right, but it was also, you know, this is home. And so it was an attack on all of us.
New Yorkers and the rest of the world are scared. They are frightened. They're trying to get answers to the questions that we're trying to get answers to. And everybody was suffering that day, whether you lost a loved one or not. This city in particular was suffering, and we were trying to help them manage and get through that suffering.
This incident changed people. You can see in your coworkers before and after. You can see in the residents of New York City before and after.
You cover news and you know that you're going to cover bad things, and you can kind of put them in a little compartment.
But this one was the kind of thing that just you carry with you for the rest of your life.
I felt like historically, I want it to be known what we saw, what we experienced. And from my perspective, I want my kids to be able to see this. And I don't want it to just disappear into the ether.
Doing my job, I think, and documenting it pays tribute to the people who actually never survived.
And the first responders, they're the heroes. The firefighters are the heroes. There's so many people who didn't think twice about going down there when people were running away.
The firefighters, those pictures of them walking up and then the towers coming down. It was just heroism at its finest. I don't know that they expected the building to come down, but I don't think they gave a second thought to, heading up when all those other people were coming down.
I still think about the families, the kids that never knew their parents.
There's no closure. That scar stays right in your heart forever. It scars up, heals a little bit, but it's not ever gone.
20 years later, I still haven't come to terms with all of it.
When I drive home at night, and I would go to Bayonne, I would see the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan in my rearview mirror. And one of my favorite views is when the sun is setting and the sky is that beautiful blue, and the sun makes all of Lower Manhattan look golden. I would live for that. Now I have a hard time looking in the rearview mirror. I just don't want to be reminded of it. The sadness is still too raw for me.
I'm glad that I have these horrible memories just to make it clear what happened, because we can never forget. We can't forget the loss in the city that day, and we also can't forget the resilience of the city that day.
Bill Butel has a final thought.
Finally tonight, part of our world has fallen apart. That is not a statement of despair. It is a statement of fact. It was a lovely day when it began, a little bit before 9 o'clock. 15 minutes later in Lower Manhattan, though, all hell had broken loose. The Twin Towers began to sway and then to fall. We watched as our way of life began to sway and fall too. The skyline is gone. So this tragic story is really just beginning. I'm Bill Butel. Good luck and be well.